welcome back to my channel. Today this tutorial is a continuation of the Python series that we have started earlier. So today we are going to go over the second types of loops in Python. In the previous tutorial we did while loops. In this tutorial we'll be going over the for loops. Okay, so for loops are this type of loops in Python that are used to carry out to perform a certain function continuously if you know the number of times you want to perform the function prior to performing the function. While in the previous tutorial we discussed about while loops, where in while loops we checked for certain conditions and then we performed certain functions, activities or expressions. So while loop will perform the certain expressions if the count which we specified is not met. Okay, so let's get to it. So I have opened my Visual Studio Code over here, so let's move on. So let's start this form for character in maybe Python language. Okay, for character in Python language we want to print car. Now what this program will do, it will go through each character within the string Python language. So it will go P and then it will print P out, it will go Y out, like that. So if you run this, we're supposed to get each letter on its own line like this, including the space, because spaces are considered as characters in Python. So this is what we get if you had a simple for loop. So for loops are used when you know the number of times you want to carry out an expression. Okay, so let's move on to another part of this tutorial. Let's create a data structure in Python called list. I know we have not discussed list, but just bear with me for now. We'll discuss it in the next tutorial. So for number in my list, okay, let's print number. So what Python will do, this is an iterable, means that you can iterate through it. So Python is going to iterate through this list. You're going to iterate through this list using the for loop. So we'll go to the first iteration, where we'll go to number 1. We'll print out 1. The second iteration will be 2, 3, 4, like that. So if you print this, we'll get each line on each number on its own line. So this is the output. So this is what for loops are used to do. Okay, so for loops are used to carry out expressions to loop through iterations if you know the number of times that you want to carry out the given expression within that suite or that block of code. So let's move on to another example where we can see for loops in action. Let's say we want to print number from 0 till 10. Now if I run this, we'll print from 0 to 9. Okay, so let me run this. You see, so it has printed from 0 to 9, but why didn't it print from 0 to 10? Because this is just another thing in Python whereby ranges, the last value is ignored. So if you want to print until 10, you print until you write 11, because the 0 is printed first, that's why. So if you run this, we'll get until 10. So this is what a for loop uses. So it's going to go in the range from 0 to 10. It's going to print out the number which are within that range. Okay, that's a for loop. That's another example where you can use a for loop. We can do this because we know the number of times we want to carry out that expression of printing out the number. Okay, so let's use for loops to print patterns in Python. So let's say my list, my underscore list will be equals to let's just use the list we created previously. So let's move on. So we'll say for let's say star count. Okay, because we're going to be printing stars. So star count in my list. Okay, for star count in my list. So this is okay, 1 2 1 like that. So for star count in my list, we are going to print out a protein. So print out an x multiplied by the number of star count. Why are we doing this? Because we want, at the end of the day, we want to get such a protein where we'll get this, and then 1, 2, and then, so we want to get a protein like this. That's why we are multiplying by the star count, because on the first iteration star count will be 1, so we'll take 1 times star, so it will print 1 star. Second iteration it will be 2, so we'll take 2 times star count from times the star, we'll get 2 like this. So you get the concept, right? So let's run this code. We'll get a protein on the screen. Yeah, you can see we get the protein. Okay, cool. Now let's print this protein using nested for loops. So we are going to move to the next part of this tutorial. We're going to discuss about for loops. So what are for loops? I mean nested for loops rather. So what are nested for loops? So nested for loops just is self-explanatory, and nested means something without inside of something. So nested for loops is a loop inside a loop, meaning that one for loop containing one or multiple other for loops. So let me just bring back this here. You see this certain what you have created in other programming languages. You can write such expressions. You can multiply print statements like this. You can multiply a string and an integer. You can do that. Languages like Java, C++, and others, you can do this, but this is possible in Python. So now the purpose of this tutorial is not only to teach you Python, but also teach you programming in general. So let's try to do this using the normal nested for loops. So on the first iteration we will get 1, right? So now we want to print 1 star, so we say for let's call this row. Okay, row like this, and then we'll call this star count. Okay, in row, and then we'll print our star. Okay, let me explain to you this code. So the first time we'll go 1, the first row will have 1 star, right? So 1 star, so the first iteration will be 1. So if you come over here, we'll print for star in this is not going to work, so I made a mistake. It's supposed to be range, and then we put in our row. Okay, so we talk about ranges in Python, so you know what they do. So for row in my list is going to print star count in each row. So the first iteration will be 1. So on the first row this is 1, so it's going to print 1 star. Second time is going to print 2, like that. Okay, so let's run this code and see what we get. We get this. Do you know why? Because we are printing each on its own line. So to prevent Python from going to another line after printing this statement, we're supposed to put n into to be an empty string. Okay, now if we run this, we are not going to get also a protein. You see, we get this data. So now to get the protein, after printing a row, we want to print a new line. After printing one row, you print the number of stars, and then you move to a new line. So to get this, we put in another print statement over here. So if you run this, after you finish printing the first row, it move on to another line. The second row, it move on to another line. Third row, move off to another line. So this is an example of for loop, nested for loops in Python. So this is how you work with for loops in Python. The difference between for loops and while loops is that while loops are used to carry out a certain loop basing on checking of a certain condition, while for loops are used to perform the same loops or actions recursively, but by considering considering a certain count. So if you know the count prior, you can use for loop, but if you don't know the count and you want to check for certain conditions, you use a while loop. So this is the difference between a while loop and a for loop. So this brings us to the end of this tutorial. Please like, share this video, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't. In the next tutorial, we'll be going over data structures in Python, specifically list in Python. So see you there. If you have any question, you can leave in the comment section below, or you can follow me on Instagram. The link is in the description below. So thanks for watching.